This section is about simplifying exponents, including negative exponents and exponents with 0. So to start, I'm going to do a pattern here. So if I have 5 cubed, that is 125. 5 times 5 times 5. 5 squared is 25. 5 to the 1 is 5. So what I'm doing is every time from here to here, I'm dividing by 5. So if I keep the pattern up, 5 to the 0 is 1 if I divide by 5. If I keep the exponent going negative, 5 to the negative 1 is 1 divided by 5, which is 1/5. 5 to the negative 2 is, I'm going to divide this number by 5, so it's 1 over 25. So in general, the properties of exponents are, or two properties of exponents are, for any non-zero number, a to the 0 power equals n, or equals 1. So if you have 5 to the 0 power equals 1. If you have negative 2x, y, z, w squared to the 0 power, that all equals 1. Now negative exponents are, if you have a negative exponent, I think of the saying, lose it and move it, or move it and lose it. So what you're going to do is you're going to move whatever is being exponentiated, whether you move it to the denominator or you could already have it in the denominator. You could start like this. So you move to the numerator and you make it, and you lose the negative. So that's where the lose it comes from. Lose the negative exponent and then move it. So this was moving from the numerator to the denominator. This is moving from the denominator to the numerator. So I practice these over here. So letter A, simplify each of the following. So 4 to the negative 3. This has a negative exponent, so I'm going to, and it's in the numerator, so I'm going to move it to the denominator and lose the negative. So I can still simplify this as 1 over 4 cubed is 64. Letter B, this is just a quantity taken to the 0 power, so it's 1. Letter C, you have a negative exponent for the 7, so you're going to move it to the denominator and lose the negative. So this turns into 1/7. Letter D. Now, this doesn't have parentheses in it, so what you have here is you got 3 is taken to the negative 2 power. I'm not going to count that negative out front. I'm going to do the order of operations, which is do exponents first. Then I'm going to take the opposite. So it's negative. Then I'm going to put 3 squared on the bottom. And to hold a spot, I'm going to keep a negative 1 on the top. So this is actually negative 1/9. Whereas E is negative 3 squared with parentheses. We know that's just 9. There's no negative exponents. F, the only thing that has a negative exponent is the y. So I'm going to make a fraction bar. 4x stays in the numerator because it doesn't have a negative exponent. And then y cubed needs to go on the bottom. Letter G, w has a negative exponent on the bottom, so I'm going to make w to the 4th go to the top and make it positive. I lose the negative. Letter H, the only thing that has a negative exponent is negative m, so I'm going to still keep 11 in the numerator and put m to the 5th in the denominator. Number 7, or I, s to the negative 4 is the only thing that has a negative exponent, so I'm going to put that on the bottom as s to the 4th. And then 7t squared is going to stay in the top. Letter J, 2 stays where it's at because it still has a positive exponent, but u to the negative 6 is going to go u to the 6 in the numerator because it was in the denominator. Letter K, I'm going to make a fraction bar, and I'm only going to move things that have positive exponents. So 3 stays, or things that have negative exponents. X to the 4th goes in the denominator, y to the 0 is just 1, and z to the negative 2 goes to the bottom as z squared. And then L, I'm going to make a fraction bar. 4x to the 8th stays, because that doesn't have a negative exponent. And then these two need to go in the numerator and make positive because they were in the denominator. Letter M, 6 is going to stay where it's at because that doesn't have a negative exponent. But this part does, so I'm going to put x to the 5th on the bottom. Y to the 0 is just 1, so that doesn't do anything. Z to the negative 6 is on the bottom, so I'm going to put z to the 6 on the top. And then w to the 8th power needs to stay on the bottom because that doesn't have a negative exponent. And then letter N, 8 to the negative squared goes on the bottom as 8 squared. 4 to the 0 stays on the bottom as 1. Now, if there's nothing in your numerator, you still need to write a 1 to hold the spot, to hold the place value. So this is going to be 1 over 64. And then O, I can put 2 to the 5th on the top and 2 to the 1 on the bottom. So 2 to the 5th is 32 over 2 is 16 is the answer. And then down here, evaluate each of the following. So before you evaluate, what I would do is I would simplify it. So I'm going to simplify this part using properties of exponents. So it's going to be 3m squared over t squared. Now when you substitute negative numbers in, you need to put them in parentheses. So it's going to be 3 times 2 squared over t squared, which is negative 3 squared. So it's going to be 3 times 4, because this is 4, over 9. And then I'm going to reduce 3/9 reduces to 1/3. So the answer is going to be 4/3. Because 1 times 4 is 4, and then the denominator is just going to be a 3. So I would simplify it first. So n cubed goes on the bottom. And w to the 0 is just 1, and I need to put a 1 on the numerator. So now I plug in, I don't even have to worry about plugging in w because it's gone in my expression. So I'm going to plug in negative 2, and because it's a negative number, I'm going to keep it in parentheses. So negative 2 to the 3rd power is negative 8. So the answer is negative 1/8. And then letter C, xy to the y. So there's really nothing I can simplify it here, so I'm just going to write x, which is negative 2, times negative 3 to the negative 3. So now I'm going to simplify this as negative 2 stays where it's at, but negative 3 to the negative 3, you only change this negative to a positive. You do not change this. You only change the sign of the exponent. So this is negative 3 to the 3rd on the bottom. So this turns into negative 2 over negative 27, because negative 3 to the 3rd is negative 27. So this is going to be 2 over 27 is my answer.